We did it, guys. Ashley! Hello, it is day... I am very mishandled right now. It is day 1 of SacAnime Winter, and we're here for my first event of the year. Also just got my order from Spooky Stickers, which Ashley came in clutch with this because I came out with mystery bags, which I will show you in a little bit, and they look so good. I'm so excited because this was the last that I needed and I didn't have time to do it, and luckily I was able to place an order with her, so I will have her sticker shop down below. Also, we're part of a stamp rally and I made milk tea and they look so good. So it's gonna be part of our stamp rally. So instead of a stamp, I guess it's not a stamp rally, it's more of a sticker rally. But I will show you my display for Sac Winter. Essentially, it's an 8-foot table, as you can see. I didn't put signage yet and I need to put more pins on it, but it's okay. Looks very good, very exciting. But one of the few things that I added on this display, there's quite a lot. These mystery keychains, which I think you can see from afar. And essentially, I added these, which were inspired by Drawn by Ivy. When you see her vlog, she will show that she also made mystery bags not too long ago, and I was like, she's big brain for that. I want to do something like that. So I essentially printed these on laminate paper, went to my local print shop, and then added some baskets. I do need to update these. I just did this for show for the table photo. And then I put these heart hooks that I've had for the longest time. I think I've had them for years now, but I just haven't used all of them. And so I attached them on here. I did use some zip ties, as you can see, and they look so good. So essentially, the way I wanted to do these mystery keychains is that essentially you can get one mystery keychain with each bag for $12. However, if you want to guarantee an entire set so that you don't get dupes and you like all of them, I do have a deal where they are a bit discounted. So in this case, with my Combini series, it is $12 each or $65 for a full set of 6. For the Office series, it's $12 each or $55 for a full set of 5. And for my Driving series, it is $12 each or $45 for a full set of 4. However, out of all of these, the only one that does have a secret is the Driving series. What really makes it a secret, if you're not familiar with blind boxes and pulling these blind boxes, is that there's usually less of that particular design. I don't remember how many I ordered of this one. I know it was like significantly less than the other keychain, so that's what makes it a secret. And I will say, if you do buy a full set of 4, there is a chance of getting a secret. However, it's not guaranteed. So just make note of that if you do see this at conventions. I don't know if I want to include these online quite yet. I'll just see how these go. If not, maybe they might be an in-person exclusive. Not sure. If anything, it's not too different from my usual display. I will say I kind of made it similar to my SacAnime summer display. The only difference is probably the mystery bags, if whatnot. But other than that, I think it looks good. It's a good display. But also, I wanted to build this display for this weekend, but also for Anime Los Angeles next week. And I didn't really want to think about it since I only have a couple days in between coming back from Sacramento and then setting up for ALA, so it is what it is. But since I will have I'm splitting a booth space with Kelsey in ALA, I figured since we both have an 8-foot space, I'll just use the same display so I don't really have to think about it too much. Very excited for this weekend. I have very low expectations just based off how summer performed. I'm here for vibes. Plus my expenses were low, so. There is one other new thing that I included for this display. Let me grab it out here. I don't know why it's deep in the booth. If you remember from SJ Made Holiday Fair, I did have this clothing rack, which I could have updated the SacAnime display to accommodate for this, but it's okay. At least I'll just pull this out and this will act as a door. So essentially I did want this display so that people can try on the sweaters on their own time without worrying about asking me to try the sweaters on, because I know some people are a little bit shy about asking to try a certain size and then maybe being afraid of saying no. But if you're too shy to ask for that and you just want to try on your own, I do have this clothing rack with all the sweaters and it's so cute. I saw these cute heart hangers and I thought it would be perfect for the display. They look so cute. I love the detail and I thought it worked well with the booth, so I have them all up here. So I have all S through 3XL. Though I will say for my sweaters, I have very limited quantities of each size. I think there's some that are sold out and I don't plan on restocking some of the sizes, so kind of limited edition in that sense, because I did think about restocking some colors. I know the bread ones were very popular. However, when it comes to apparel, I just figured that I would want them to be limited edition so that people are more likely to buy them rather than anticipating that they would get restocked. So once they're sold out, they will sell out. I am waiting for my red sweaters, which if you follow me on social media, I did post about them. So those will be coming soon. I'm hoping to receive them by late January or February. So as of now, there's no delays and I should receive them before SJ Made Friend Fest. So if you will be in the San Jose area during that time, I will see you there. And hopefully I have my love letter sweaters. Yeah, I don't think I'll have this for ALA because I don't really have space for it in our booth, but I brought it for this one and then we're just treating it as a door essentially. So if we need to go out, we'll just move it because there's wheels on it. Also, since SacAnime does have a good amount of space behind your booth, I did bring my banner, which I don't know if you can see it, but there's a banner in the background. Let me show you the front. I did bring my banner. If you remember, I did use this last at TwitchCon. I used this particular banner back at TwitchCon because this is the 8-foot banner, but the last time I used the stand was for SJ Made Holiday Fair because I did have space. In this case, since there was a lot of space and I did want the display to look a bit more cohesive, I brought it in with me. And it's quite nice because I'm currently table neighbors with Stickersy over here and then Kelsey Kishi Draws. And since we all have banners, it looks very cohesive and very nice. So I'm looking forward to using this for future events if I do have space. I think the next time I would be able to use this, I don't know if I have space for it for ALA, but definitely for Anime Impulse LA, since we also have some space allotted behind us. But most of the time with most cons, we don't really have a lot of space behind us. Usually you only have like 2-3 feet of space. So I thought we'll just use it for this con. As you know, as an artist alley vendor, you have to promote that you are currently vending in an artist alley. So in my case, I did want to do a table reveal and I'm doing this one. I don't know if hopefully it doesn't copyright me. It's like Madame Marble, MM, Flip It Around, Wicked Witch. I wanted to do this one. And essentially it'll be me doing Madame Marble, MM, Flip It Around, Wicked Witch. And it's from my empty table to the finished table display. So I gotta edit that right now so I can post it. Hello, it is 1:40. We got food because I was starting to get hungry and Bento Box is just not too far from here. I think it's like a block away. And I'm splitting a sake don, so it's just salmon and rice. At least $12 each per person, so to say. And that'll be our lunch for today. I think during SAC summer, I would typically get a bowl for myself and then a bowl for my helper. And it did cost a lot. It was a bit pricey because it is $24 for this bowl. And it was pretty filling. I don't think I was able to finish each time and I thought it was a bit of a waste. So I just figured if we're getting dinner later tonight and it's usually a bit more of a meal and that would be filling, I figured we would just split it. Don't forget to take care of yourself during con and get some food. So one of my tasks for this weekend is to label my mystery bags. So if you're not sure with how mystery bags are, if you're not familiar with the concept of a blind bag, blind box, mystery bag, all the same thing. Essentially, you are given these options of design. So in this case, there's 5, right? And of these 5, you do not know what you're gonna get. And in this case, I know there's like a debate with mystery bags and some people don't like them because what if you don't get what you want? And in my case, at least for myself, I don't usually buy a mystery bag unless I like 90 to 100% of all the designs. There's an announcement. We'll be in a second. We're gonna plug in the microphone because I forgot to charge it and it is currently charging right now on my, whatever this is called, the Jackery. In the case of mystery bags, I prefer to buy one if I like most, if not all of the designs. So in my case, I did put a lot of effort into each of one of mine. Because I do have the option of purchasing an entire case, and I recently learned this last year actually, where if you want to guarantee every single one of a design in the series, you buy a case, which is essentially just one of each. So for my keychains, I do have the option to buy every single one at a discount. And because that is an option, I can't just put them all in a bag and then have it free for all. I do have them organized like this in my 4x6 photo bins. They look like this, and usually they come in a case of 24 or so. I just have them available individually. And I do label them, so I fit about 4 to 5 in each 4x6 photo bin. And I do have to label them and make sure that there's 2 different designs from 2 different series, because otherwise, if they're from the same series, unless I feel it, most of the time I can't really tell, even just from feeling it, so I have to separate them so then I'm not getting confused. And I do see like what series it is. What's a good example? Like in this case, this one is 2 different designs. It has a driving series and the Combini series. And I do have the label for each of them. So then if someone does buy the entire set, I can make sure that I do grab one of each different design rather than one might be a dupe, because that's not supposed to be the case when they buy a set. I do need to work on that right now, because I did work on the driving series and the Combini series, but because I just received the stickers for these, I couldn't really put it together right away. And I don't think a hair straightener works on the Jackery, so I'm going to have to iron on the top, because I did get the heat seal ones. Let me grab one, for example. So they look like this. So they're heat sealed. And you can easily tell if it's torn open because there's no way of getting it open. It's not like a Ziploc bag that is resealable. And that's the fun of a blind bag. Let's start working on them. It's our table neighbor.
Happy New Year, Mualcainianites. Welcome to the new year.
He could blend in his display. Look at that. Where's Henry? Oh, there he is. It looks so good. Look at all the banners. They look so good. So as I mentioned before, I am in a stamp rally this year. Again, when am I not? Vivian of Zendercake designed this stamp card. Very cute. This is our map of where everyone is. And instead of putting stamps, which maybe it's not so much of a stamp rally, but rather a sticker rally, Ashley of Lay Spirit Designs, also known as Spooky Stickers, made cute little stickers for all of us. So instead of a stamp, we just put a little sticker of the drink that we designed. These are all the drinks. So when it's full, it looks like a cute little vending machine. And this is a prize. Kelsey put them in these cute bags that I thought was a really nice touch. When you unbox it, aka unbag it, you get the shaker keychain. Very, very cute. I drew all of the OCs in my style, just so it's a bit more cohesive. And it's a cute little Japanese vending machine. I do like how it turned out. We got them just in the nick of time because I think I ordered them late November. And since I typically do want to order or at least see a sample of how it'll look before they go through with production, it just took a little bit longer than it usually would. And since we did want it to shake a little bit more, it just added a few more weeks to the time. And luckily we got it on December 31st, so right before SacAnime. Though technically I usually would want to receive it at least a month in advance, but you know, everyone got busy, holidays were happening. I'm sure the factory has also had some breaks with Christmas and everything in between, but we got in time, so very happy about that. And I thought it was so cute. This is what this year's SacAnime winter badge looks like, and I thought it was really cute. I will say for this convention, I don't think attendees get badges. I think they get wristbands. So I wouldn't assume that we would get a lot of lanyard sales. I think as of today, we didn't have any lanyard sales. And usually the pattern with lanyards is that if a convention does offer badges and it's not necessarily a decorated badge, usually people like to make it a little bit more fancy. And so they get a lanyard. But in this case, since it's only artists and vendors who get a badge, not many lanyard sales. But looking at today's numbers, it is still pretty early on. I'd say there's a couple hours, which could technically be early because it is a weekday. Sometimes if they have an entire weekend badge, they might go later on Friday, because why take PTO if you're gonna come in Saturday and Sunday? Or maybe they'll just get here later after work. And since con was from 12 to 7 today, I wouldn't be surprised if they got here around 6 to 7. Because Artist Alley is only 6 to 7. However, there's a lot of activities that are still going on, so I wouldn't be surprised if people did come in later. But in terms of sales, I would say that it's pretty decent. I did have pretty low expectations going into this event based off of SacAnime summer numbers. If you've watched my vlog, I did mention that I did significantly less in terms of sales for Sac Summer this, or I guess last year, compared to 2024. And when winter is usually a bit slower than summer for most people, I tend to have that same perspective since that was my case for 2024, 2025, because I did SacAnime Summer 2024 and then SacAnime Winter 2025. And since I had that same pattern, I just assumed that it would be the same for this coming year. I will say though, even though it is slower this year compared to last SacAnime Winter, we are just a little under my ideal revenue for the day. I will say though, since this isn't necessarily my only event of January, I still have 2 more events and those 2 are relatively decent. I don't necessarily need to have really high revenue, at least for this event, because I'm not depending on just this con. I still have more that I can get revenue from. I will say though, since I only have 1 convention in February and it is still a decent convention, but that's only 1 con compared to doing multiple decent cons in a month. So that is also something to consider if you are interested in doing Artist Alley full-time. While you can have a lucrative convention, not all cons are going to be that lucrative. Plus, it's different if you have multiple cons in a month versus just having 1 con per month. Because you can have 1 lucrative convention, but if you don't have a few cons in the next few months and you don't have other means of revenue, you have to spread that revenue from that convention for multiple months. And in that sense, it basically stretches out your revenue compared to if you have multiple events coming every month, because then you have a little bit more of a stable income. And as you know, with any freelancer or anyone with a small business, your income is not going to be the same every month. You can have really good months, but then you can also have really bad months. And in that sense, it's up to you to make sure you have enough income or savings to pad in between the times where it is rough. You're not relying on debt or credit cards to supplement that income. I could honestly talk about that in another video, but if you're interested, let me know. I will also say, since it is 2026, I do want to talk about my New Year's goals in a little bit. Maybe I'll talk about it in this video, or maybe you'll see it in the ALA video. But if you've thought about what your goals are for 2026, let me know down below. I'm curious to hear them. And I also think it's a good way to think of other goals that we can think about, because sometimes we could be limited to certain things, but we might not be used to expanding what we can think of as a goal. So let me know, and I will share my goals later on in this video. So stay tuned for that. We're gonna do an interview with Henry of Sticker Zoo.
I'm stickering the zoo.
That doesn't sound right.
I'm here with Macy of
Mualcaina. My goal in 2026 is to expand on wholesale, because I dipped my toes in it a little bit in 2024, didn't really pursue it in 2025. And seeing how conventions are really difficult to get in this year or even last year, I figured that I need another way to expand on my income and not necessarily rely on whether I get into cons or not. And I feel that wholesale is the best way to do that, because now that I've expanded my original characters, I feel a bit more comfortable doing so and want to focus on wholesale this year.
Outside of the vendor hall, but ask for
This time I do want to promote more, have more products listed in my fair platform, and hopefully cultivate more relationships with other businesses who do want to have my product in their stores. And it's a lot more exhausting to do a lot of events in general, even if they're smaller, because it's a lot of effort without a lot of return on investment. You know, I'm getting older. I would say that I'm still pretty young, but I'm not the same as I was 4 years ago, even if I am maintaining the same routine and healthy living, so to say. And I can't depend on doing so much physical work as the years go by, and I don't think that this is a very sustainable way to work my business, so I need to expand in other ways that might not take as much of a physical toll. Hello. Oh, do you want to say hi to the vlog? It's Carmen. No, you look amazing. Hello.
talk about all your
He's doing interviews with people.
To make me rich!
Yay! Yay! Who's my booth neighbor? Oh, that was really nice. That was so. Good morning. I don't really know what time it is because I don't know where my phone is, but it is day 2 of SacAnime Winter. And technically the con is open for VIP. However, I wanted to film in front of my booth, so here we are. I will say, looking at yesterday's numbers, it actually wasn't too bad, but also my expectations were very low, as I said before, based off of how Sac Summer went. I don't really know if it's about the same as last Sac Winter. I actually didn't have a chance to look at my numbers. However, there was a lot of people. in the convention center. I will say there was a good amount of foot traffic, and I wasn't really sure as to why that was because I expected to be a lot less foot traffic. However, when I was talking to other Artist Alley vendors, other exhibitors, they said that it might have been because some people said that they had that day off. Yesterday was January 2nd, and since New Year's was on January 1st, it was on a Thursday. Some people did have that day off, and so they just ended up coming in here anyway, which was quite nice because it reflected in the amount of people that were in the hall during that time. So that made a lot of sense. As for today, there is a good amount of people, especially if this is supposed to be VIP. This is kind of the amount of people that are here right now, which is a little bit more than what I'm used to for the VIP section. I feel that for the rest of the day, maybe it might be a little bit more busy, but who knows? We'll see. However, being in Sacramento, I did get my beloved Dutch Bros, so I'm very happy about it. The condensation is dripping everywhere. I have decent expectations for this event. Oh, also, what was it? My Smisky stickers came in. The Smisky stickers. I did design some for a stamp rally that I am doing with Ivy and Henry for Anime Impulse LA, and I thought, like, well, I can make them into 3-inch stickers, so this is one of them. I don't know where the other one is. It's somewhere. It's the watering plant Smisky, and he looks so cute. So very excited to debut him at this convention. I didn't assign them numbers yet. I don't know if this is going to be a permanent thing, but I did want to bring them since I already designed them. So, hello. I have not vlogged in a long time, nor do I even know if I vlogged during the day. However, it is 6:13, so not too long until con ends because it ends at 7 p.m. today. And today is the longest day because it is from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., whereas yesterday was 12 to 7 p.m., and then tomorrow is 10 to 6. I'll say I did spend most of today editing this weekend's vlog, mostly because I only have a day and a half after coming back from Sacramento to Los Angeles to even prep everything else for Anime Los Angeles. And frankly, I don't really want to work on the SacAnime vlog during ALA, and I would prefer to have everything out in a timely manner rather than waiting a few months later, because knowing myself, if I wait longer than a week of a con or even the next week after a convention, I know I'm not going to work on that video for several months, and I don't want to do that. But in my case, looking at today's numbers, I will say that I'm pretty satisfied with the numbers. If I had no other SacAnime Winter to compare this convention with, I would be very satisfied. I've always loved the vibe. I appreciate staff here. They're very organized. They're very communicative. I especially love the booth layout. The fact that 8-foot tables are $250, and not only do you have an 8-foot table, you also essentially have a 10 by 10 space. And you can pretty much take up the entirety of the back of your table versus some other conventions where you only have a couple feet behind your table and you have to make sure that the walkway is clear behind you because that's how artists are going in and out from the tables. But in this case, because there is about 2 to 3 feet of space in between tables, maybe not 3 feet, but I would say like 2.5 feet to 2 feet of space in between tables, you can go out through the sides of the tables, and the rest of the back is just for your own to either display more product if you want an inner L type of display, or you just want more storage behind you, which in my case, I want more storage. But all of that is to say that I am very happy with this weekend's numbers. Admittedly so, comparison is the thief of joy because I completely forgot what my numbers were for last SacAnime Winter, and I had envisioned a specific number, and comparing the numbers from this weekend and the projected numbers for tomorrow, I thought it would be around that number, which I would be pretty satisfied with. However, when I actually looked at the numbers and I was like, oh, that is very far off from what we made last year. So at that point, obviously, I, in the moment, would feel disappointed. However, looking at this weekend's numbers, while also considering the past year's performance with the economy, the competition in Artist Alley, and many other factors, I'm very satisfied with this weekend's numbers. Again, to clarify, I did make expenses, but as someone who does do this full time, you tend to have a certain amount that you would like to hit, especially for certain cons that you have done before, that did do well before. You would like to hit a certain amount because you're not sure if that income can last for the next few months, right? And even though I did address not too long ago about how it helps to have multiple conventions within a certain time period because that adds a little bit more stability versus only having one event per month. It's still something that a lot of us freelancers or small business owners are fearful of. But also, as you know, Articelli is not my only main source of income. While it does take up a large percentage of my income, I also have other streams. While they might not be as lucrative as Articelli, I have an online business. I have things in a consignment shop. I also am monetized on YouTube. I have a Patreon and many other things. So those do help pad my income when I might not have as many events or conventions in a month, or maybe I just don't have any within a certain time period. And even now, I am very grateful to be able to have those sources of income. I'm still continually working on increasing those sources as well as cultivating ways in which I don't need to completely rely on whether I get into a convention or not. Good morning, it is day 3 of SacAnime Winter and it is the last day of this convention weekend. It is currently 9:51, so 9 minutes until con starts. However, we do still need to take our group photo and video. Some information about SacAnime Winter. This convention is one of many conventions, as I've said in many SacAnime videos, but I'll reinstate it in this video as well. This is a 3-day convention in Sacramento, California. It is at the Safe Credit Union Convention Center and is usually the first weekend of January. I just learned that next year's SacAnime Winter will literally start on New Year's Day. I don't know how that's gonna go, but also, I can't really think about that until I get into this convention, so that'll be for future Macy to worry about. There are 3 different options for SacAnime. There is a 6-foot table, 8-foot table, and then a 10x10. There's a lot more 8-foot spaces, some 6-foot spaces, and just a few 10x10 spaces. I currently have the 8-foot table space, which does come with a 10x10, and actually don't know if it's a 10x10. It feels like one, but there is a lot of space behind you. You are able to use the entire space, create an inner L if you really want to, and so on. However, I just did my usual because I do have an inline space. I spent $250 for this table. Came with an 8-foot table, 2 chairs, as well as a lot of space behind you. I had enough space to put up my 8x8 banner, but I did see a few people with their 10x8 banner. Applications are juried. I believe I applied in October. I think it was October because it was shortly after SacAnime Summer, or there was still a good time in between SacAnime Summer to now. You do find out pretty quickly whether you got in or not, since SacAnime staff is pretty quick on letting everyone know. You also know your table locations pretty early on, which is really helpful when it comes to stamp rallies in that sense and planning your whole layout. Personally, as you've watched in many of my other SacAnime vlogs, for me this con is very much worth it for myself. My expenses are very low. I essentially just have to pay for gas, table fee, my helper, food, stamp rally things, and so on. So essentially my largest expense for this con is table fee, which already is pretty affordable compared to a lot of cons. $250 for this much space is honestly very generous, at least from what I'm used to when conventions, especially in the California area, are usually in the $400 to $500 range, if not more, for a lot less space. So to me, this is very much worth it in my case. I will say that SacAnime Winter is usually lower in revenue compared to the summer shows, which is why there's a lot more non-California people who tend to vend at the summer show versus this one. But again, as someone who is from California, is mostly driving to this con, it's very much affordable for myself. Expenses are usually under $1K for me at SacAnime, but that's also because my lodging is covered. I believe back in last year's SacAnime Winter, because I did choose a hotel that was within walking distance to this con, my expenses were just under 2K. So if that is already a lot for you, maybe reconsider applying for this con. But of course, if you're local, if you can keep your expenses to 1K, if not less, I would say go for it. I really enjoy this convention. I would come back. Everyone's great, attendees are great, staff is great, the artists who are vending here are great. It's nice seeing a lot of friends, especially right after the New Year's. So I'd love to come back whenever they allow me in. Hello, Vivian. Hello. Love the booth. Very cute, very cute. Okay, now let's get the group photo. Everyone's here. Hello. Where's Kelsey? She's there. Yay! You know the vloggers are here when everyone's tripods are out. Do you guys want to put your tripods here? I think we could do the jump here so we're not like blocking too much. Well,
Look at your charm.
yeah, because I'm like, everyone has the same tripod. How would I know which one's mine? Ow. Ashley, look at her beautiful display. I realize I never have you like in front of your table. Con just started and now we have to get back to the table. Look how good it looks with the whole block. So nice. If you didn't know already, I do stream on Twitch. I stream once a week, if not once every other week, where I talk about Artist Alley, small business, and everything in between. Usually I like to stream hanging out with Artist Alley friends, working on upcoming products and stamp rallies, convention prep, and so much more. Consider following me on Twitch so you don't miss the next stream. Tell me why I'm getting deja vu because we are currently waiting for another set of convention apps to open, and in this time it is Techo, which I believe it's TechoCon, and that is an anime convention in Pittsburgh, which I've been meaning to apply to. However, the application process is usually really inconvenient for myself, which obviously it doesn't really matter whether it's convenient for me or not, but it's 10:44 and apps open in about 60 minutes. So it kind of feels like AX Chibi where I was applying for Fanime at the time. And in a way, for Techo, from what I know, it is juried, but it's not necessarily first come, first serve, though initially it is first come, first serve because apps tend to close within 10 minutes or even less. I think there's a cap on it, though I don't know what the exact cap is. So obviously I have my laptop ready. Even though it's still pretty early on, there's still 15, 16 minutes. I'm just trying to make sure that everything's ready so I can at least get my app in smoothly. I don't think it's going to be as bad as Fanime where it kept crashing because Fanime's was on their website versus this one is on Eventany. And usually with Eventany, if you've applied for Artist Alley that usually uses that platform, they usually have your information on there, especially if you signed up for an account. So I don't really need to input too much information, and I'm pretty sure I'd be done within the next couple minutes, but I would like to at least get my app in. Good luck to us all. Almost showtime. Let's get this app in. Also, this definitely does not guarantee whether I get in or not, but we'll try. We did it, guys. Yay! We got it in. Okay, that was pretty quick. It's 11:04 now, so it's only been 4 minutes, but they did say the apps close within 10 minutes, and I think that was the case last year. So, I mean, again, similar to Fanime, even if I got my app in, it does not guarantee that I get in because this is a juried event, but we'll see. I'd love to do Techo. Also, I wanted to say thank you to Thee for giving us snacks. When she came out with the bag, I was like, oh, I get to choose one? And then they gave me all of them. I'm like, oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So I was just informed by Kelsey that there is apparently a speed dating section here in SacAnime Winter, which is actually pretty crazy. I will say it is smart because if you are looking for someone who is interested in weeb culture, comic, pop culture, and the like, or just someone who goes to conventions in general, this is probably the place where you can find them. And she was also telling me like, oh, guess where it is. And at first I was thinking in the artist alley, I don't know. But apparently it was in the 18+ section, which at first it's like interesting. But also I actually think it's smart because one, you want to make sure that they're all legal adults. You don't want any minors accidentally dating people over 18. Like, we're not about that. But I thought that was cool. If you're interested in trying the speed dating section of SacAnime, I don't know how long this has been going on or if they'll have it in summer. Maybe worth trying if you're a single Pringle. I put my jacket on because it got cold. But something to consider for next SacAnime Winter is that it will be on New Year's Day. So day 1 is January 1st, day 2 is January 2nd, and day 3 is January 3rd. What that means is if you are not local, especially if you need a lot of time to set up, you would have to set up on New Year's Eve. For a lot of people, they don't really want to do that because New Year's Eve is a great time to celebrate with friends, with family, and for some people, the last thing they want to do is work during that time. That is one case for me, where I do spend a lot of time with family on New Year's Eve. So that is something that is making me reconsider for next year. I do think that I have an 80% chance of
wanting to do it. That is, if I even get into SacAnime Winter to begin with. But right now I'm like, can I even do Sac Winter next year? I don't know. So in your case, if you don't celebrate New Year's or if you're local, you might have a better chance of getting in. Of course, this event is still juried, so it's up to the Artist Alley gods to let you in or not. But in that sense, there might be a lot of people who might reconsider applying because you would essentially have to be in Sacramento, set up, and all of that by New Year's Day, which a lot of people are not able to sacrifice. And honestly, based on that information, I don't know when Anime Los Angeles dates are going to be. However, you can pretty much guess that ALA will probably not fall on the same weekend as Sac Winter, if it's going to be like that, because in the past few years, even when I first started back in 2022, and I've been doing ALA for 5 years now, because 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So yeah, this will be my 5th Anime Los Angeles. While it usually is the weekend after New Year's, it's usually not the immediate weekend after New Year's. So if it's too close to New Year's, it usually doesn't fall on that weekend. But for whatever reason, the past couple of years, SacAnime Winter has always fallen on the immediate weekend after New Year's, which is why I'm able to do both Sac Winter and ALA since I got into both. I mean, I don't know, I'm already just thinking about it like way in advance, but we'll see. It is 2:43 and temperature-wise, it is a little bit chilly inside the convention. Do I know the reason why? No, not really. You can say that the AC might be on a little bit higher or the temperature's a little bit lower. It might also just be because there's less people inside the convention. However, I'm not sure. It does feel like there's a good amount of people walking around, but I will say that the sentiment from a lot of other artists is that there is a lot of bodies in the room, but the bodies are not buying, which is fair because most people did do their holiday shopping a month prior, and if they do have money, they might spend it. However, for some people, there is a lot of really good voice actors this year. A good amount of the AOT cast is here. A good amount of JJK cast is here, which makes sense because the new season of Jujutsu Kaisen is coming out in a few days. There's also a couple people, if not one person from, what show is that? What movie? K-pop Demon Hunters, Has Been Hotel, but quite a lot of notable voice actors for this winter convention. And of course, you do have to pay to get autographs. Usually the minimum is about $20 to $40, but that was back in 2022. I don't know how it is now. I'm sure it's gotten higher with more people going into the convention scene. So I wouldn't be surprised if most people spent their money getting these autographs and then the rest of it is going into Artist Alley, if there is any extra. I will say I've always loved this convention center. I do like that the restrooms are relatively clean. There's also water stations, so I have been refilling my water as much as possible. In terms of internet, I know for a lot of Artist Alley vendors, this is something that they ask. My internet has been acting up a little bit. I don't know if it's just my CMO, but it just hasn't been working. Sometimes, like right now, it's currently off because I'm using my phone to use as a hotspot. I mean, when I use my phone as a hotspot, it's fine. I use Verizon and it's been pretty decent. Nothing to complain about, but I'm just a little bit irritated with my Solis. And I already topped it off with an additional like 20 gigabytes of internet, so I don't really know what's going on in that sense. Other than that, I'm essentially a broken record here, but pretty satisfied with this event, would do it again. While I did touch on this a little bit, would I recommend this for most vendors? I would say yes, if you're able to come out here. I know for a lot of people, they're doing this convention instead of Anime Los Angeles because they didn't get into ALA. I will say though, for SacAnime, while it is a big convention, or at least like a pretty decent mid-sized convention, the attendees who come here tend to just go to this convention. There are some cons like ALA, Anime Expo, Otakon, etc., where people are willing to fly out and travel to that convention. Here in Sacramento, this is essentially one of the only anime cons that is held in the Sacramento area compared to Bay Area, San Jose area, essentially. There's a good amount of anime cons. There's Fanime, there's Anime Impulse Bay Area, and then they have the SJ Made events. A lot of anime artists go to those. However, in this case, the only anime cons here is SacAnime Summer, SacAnime Winter, SacAnime does have a spring event. However, I know it is a bit smaller and also in a different convention center than the Safe Credit Union Convention Center. So there's not as many cons in this area, at least in terms of anime. And the thing with SacAnime is that because it's usually the same attendees who go to this event, unless you have new items, you might not do that well at this con. Typically, since there's a lot of locals who attend this convention, usually the newer artists tend to get a bit more sales than usual because you're a fresh face, right? However, if you do their winter shows and then you do the summer show and then you come again and again every year, if you don't have anything new, maybe a couple of new things here and there, that might be okay, but you have to have a good amount of new things to do decently well at this con. That's also why for some artists, instead of wanting to pump out more and more new things, because that does take a lot of time and effort on your end, they just travel to different conventions. That's also something that I'm currently trying to do, is do more out-of-state cons, because I've been vending for almost 5 years now. Technically, this is going to be my 5th year of vending at conventions, which is wild. That's a kindergartner. In a sense, I have oversaturated the California area. I do SoCal events all the time. I do NorCal events all the time. There's only so many things that someone who likes my things can buy. If I want to supplement my income, I do need to travel to other places, because when I went to Texas, or when I went to Portland, when I went to DC, when I went to Chicago, it's a completely different audience base who might have bought from me online, definitely possible. But there's a lot of people who don't buy things online, who only buy things in person at anime cons, and this is my opportunity to reach them. And to do that, I would have to venture out to different conventions outside of my home state. Is it more work? Yes. Is it more money? Yes. Does it take more time and a lot of mental and physical toll on me? Yes. But that is something that I would have to do if I don't have the time to pump out new products every single time. Ideally, I would have a balance between having to travel more and creating new products. But at the same time, the other issue is I might be able to pump out more products, but what if I have too many products? Or what if I have products from years ago or older designs, and now they're not as accurate to my current art style? What do I do about that? It's a waste, right? If it's not moving, so to say. Again, I can go on and on about this, but let me know if you want me to talk about that a little bit more in other videos. It's a lot to think about when it comes to this type of business. If you didn't already, I do have a Patreon. I like to post behind the scenes content as well as artist selling and small business tips that I don't necessarily share on social media and YouTube on there. And in the Biz Buddies tier, I typically post informative con reviews that I also just don't share anywhere else. So if you want to support me and this channel on Patreon, I will have the link down below. I feel like everyone's recording right now. Look at this. This is so funny. Look at all the cameras. Oh my god. I don't even know. Can we fit? Woo! Time to pose.
Time for us. Pose. 1, 2, 3. Pose. 1, 2, 3. Pose. 1, 2, 3. Done!
So yummy. Hello. So now that you know how SacAnime Winter went for me this year, if you're curious about their summer show, click here for their SacAnime summer vlog, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!